Hey, this is Commander Bacon with Commander Bacon 64, and I'm so glad you're back. And today we're going to talk about the steps necessary to get your ham radio license. So stick around. All right, before we get into it, I want to remind you to hit the thumbs up if you like this video. And if you don't, hit the thumbs up or hit the thumbs down twice. That's really important that you hit it twice. Also, I'd really love for you to be a subscriber. Click the subscribe button, fill in that little bell. That way you'll get a notification every time I upload a new video. And it really helps our channel out a lot. So thanks, and we'll get right to it. Okay, so you want to get your ham radio license. Where do you begin? That's the tough question. So step one is you need to obtain study material. So you can go to the arrl.org website. You can order the Technician Class Prep Manual. That's one resource. You can go to a class, a live class, through one of your local amateur radio clubs, or you can go online and get the study material there. I'm going to show you one that I used, and it actually has a phone app. So the phone app is like $3.99. It's worth every penny because it covers the technician class, the general class, and the amateur extra class. So it has all the questions in there. So it'll help me study for all of them. But we're going to go here. We're going to already did a Google search on it. We're going to look at ham study. That's all you have to type in, and then you're going to go to hamstudy.org. All right? And then you can see it's got technician, general, or amateur extra. So you're starting out, you need to click on the technician. Okay? And then there's different things. You can do study mode. You can just read the questions. And then there's a practice test. So the study mode is like, it's like flashcards. That's what I was trying to think of, flashcards. We can just read the questions. So there's different segments of it, and you'll see this is commission rules, and then here's the section, what it's about, T1A. And then it says, which of the following is part of the basis and purpose of amateur radio service? And it has all the different answers. And then the correct answer is in green. It's advancing skills in the technical and communication phases of the radio art. And then it goes on to the next question. So you can just look at those, which is really helpful. But I found that the study mode, the flashcard portion on my phone, very helpful. You get immediate feedback if it's right or wrong. And what it also does is it provides you with an endless loop. So if you start getting a bunch of them right, it won't ask you those questions again for a while. But the ones that you got wrong, it'll keep cycling through with the other questions until you start getting them right more and more often. Now, some people don't like this type of way of doing it because they feel like it's just purely memorization of answers, questions and answers. And it is to a certain point. But through that memorization, you pick up a lot of things along the way. There was a lot of things I didn't know about ham radio. And going through this memorization, it really helped me understand the language, right? And also get a feel for the calculations and the process and all of that. So it was very, very helpful. And I took an online test, practice test, and failed miserably. And I got this app because a neighbor had told me about it. And I went through the study questions for like 3 hours, took the practice test, and I passed. So it was that fast. Now, that was on the technician class. The general is a lot different. It's more technical questions, and it's a lot more intense. And I'm struggling with that more. I'm not picking it up as easy as the technician. So I just want you to know that the technician class is pretty straightforward. And if you have any understanding of any electrical calculations, you're going to do fine. And, you know, if you spend like an hour a day or half an hour a day reviewing the study questions and do that for 2 weeks, I think you'll be able to pass. And you can keep taking the practice test, and see how you're doing. And eventually, I was getting to the point where I was getting 34, 35 questions right out of 35. So I felt very confident going into the test that I was going to pass. I ended up with a 34 out of 35. So I did really good. So this is your first step. This is easy. This will help you a lot, especially if you don't have any understanding of the ham study material. And you won't get bogged down with reading a really thick book, right? That's what a lot of the prep books are. Now, the prep books are really good because they get a lot of the background of what you're studying. But the important thing is you're going to learn a lot by doing. So if you take the test and pass it, then you'll start playing with the radio. You'll start getting a feel for it. You'll meet other folks that'll help you along the way. And the most important part is getting your license. You get your license, and that's the beginning of this process. You will start your journey with the license. So get your study material, study, study, study. All right, the next step is get your FRN number. What's an FRN number? Well, it's a number that the FCC will set up for you once you register with them. And it will help you. Well, it'll be the number that's required when you take your exam. So let's go to arrl.org and look at that. So we're going to go to licensing, education, and training, and we're going to go to getting licensed. Okay, and it talks about why you should get licensed and all that. You know, find a class, find a testing location. We're going to talk about that later. Take practice. FCC license info and forms. So let's look at that. All right. So the FCC uses CORS. Not sure. It's a Commission Registration System. Okay. You need to receive an FCC registration number, your FRN. So let's click on there for learn more. All right, for new users, create an FCC CORS username account at the FCC CORS registration. You need a unique username. Usually it's a valid email address. Make sure you use a good email address that you know you're not going to delete. You could even create one just for this process, right? Make it something important that you would remember. The FCC goes by that email address, and one thing that'll cause you to get your license revoked is not maintaining that email address that they have on file. And if they can't contact you through that email address, they'll revoke your license. So that's very, very important. All right, so there are instructions on the FCC registration help and new user's guide to ULS. So let's look at the help. Register new FCF user account, or register for a new FRN. So I think you have to do this first, and it walks you through it. So make sure you follow these instructions because the FCC website is a little hard to navigate. Okay, so go through this, and then you go through the FRN. I'm not going to take you step by step through it because I can't do it again unless I try to set up a new account, and I'm not going to do that. But these help instructions here will walk you through the process. That is extremely important. So I'll leave a link to this. You saw we typed in arrl.org, and then we went through and clicked on those things. Follow this video. It'll take you right through it. So once you have your FRN number, you will be using that when you take your test. You have to be able to provide that on the form 605 when you take your test. All right, so what's the next step? So the next step you're going to have to do is schedule and take the test, right? You've already studied, you got your FRN number, So now let's go to arrl.org again. That's a pretty important website to go to. We're going to license and education, and we're going to look for, let's see, online or in-person testing. So we're going to check that. And then here you need to search for in-person exam sessions. So you type in your zip code, 38611, it's Mississippi. And so there's one in Bartlett at the Delta Arc VE team is sponsoring that. There's one in Hernando coming up, and there's one in Olive Branch. So this is the closest one to me. This is the one that I would go to. So whichever one you would pick, you can see there's a Learn More at the bottom of each one. So I'm going to go click on Learn More, and it'll come up, and it'll give you all the information, right? It tells you the time. The testing starts at 6. The meeting that they normally have starts at 7 or 7:30. It gives you the contact information. It gives you the phone number of the contact, their email, and even the hyperlink to the email. So you can send them an email and say, hey, I'm Commander Bacon, and I would like to take my technician class test on February 21st. And I wanted to give you a heads up. Okay? Give them a heads up. Let them know that you're coming. They'll be prepared for it. It'll be much better. It says, please call ahead if possible. So that's what you're doing. You're contacting the administrator of the test. Let them know you're going to be there. Okay? All right. So you've got your study material. You've studied. You got your FRN. That's good. You found out where you take the test. You contacted the testing facility. They know you're coming. Now, what do you do? What do you do when you go to the test? I'm gonna take this information from the Olive Branch Amateur Radio Club. It says, what must you take to the testing session? You need one legal photo ID. Okay, so your driver's license. You need your FRN number that you already got. Good job with that. You must provide an email address. I would use the same one that coincided with your FRN. And that's pretty much all you need, right? Other things that you can take into the testing session. Clean sheets of paper. Nothing on them, nothing written on them. You need 2 or 3 number 2 pencils, a calculator that cannot be pre-programmed or the memory is cleared of formulas, right? They don't want you bringing something that has formulas already built into it. So check with your instructor, find out, a TI-35 calculator is plenty good enough for what you're going to do. You make sure you have your FRN number with you. What I did is I made a note. I've got a set of notes on my phone that has my FRN, has everything with ham radio. It's got my FRN number. It's got my call sign. Anything that relates to ham radio, it's in one single note. I know that it's not typoed. I didn't write it funny or anything. It is the correct number. That's really important. Get that FRN number right on the form that you fill out when you take the test. Again, you got to take your photo ID, and there's a testing fee, right? They cost you $15 for them to administer the test to you. So take cash. That's the easiest thing. What are some things that you can't bring? Don't bring food or drink. It's just not good practice, right? You don't want to spill anything on your test or whatever. Can't have your cell phone out of your pocket. Keep it in your pocket. Anything that has access to the internet, keep it in your pocket. Don't bring it with you, whatever. That has the possibility of providing answers to questions. This is not an open book test. This is a closed book test. You have to know what you're doing. And again, any kind of storage device, a computer, anything where the answers could be formulas, whatever, just don't bring it. Don't bring any kind of reference books. If you did get the ARRL technician class prep book, don't bring it. You don't need it. They're testing you, not the book. All right. So we got that done. So congratulations. You got at least 26 questions right out of 35 on your exam. You are almost licensed. So what will happen is you'll get, whoever administers the test, they have to log the results with the FCC. The FCC will then send you an email saying, hey, you passed your test. Now you need to pay for your license. So you'll click on the link that they provide. You'll go in, and again, it's not an easy system to navigate. Make sure you follow the instructions very carefully. And you end up paying $35 for your license. This is accurate as of the date of this recording, right? So in the future, it might be more expensive. Who knows? I don't know. So you get that taken care of. You are not licensed until you show up on the ULS web database, okay? And we'll take you there in a second. All right, so we're on the FCC website. It's fcc.gov. Pretty easy. So we're going to go up to licensing and databases, right? And we're going to look for ULS. And then we're going to look for your status, right? And let's see. License search by FRN. Okay. Here's where you're going to do it. I'm not going to show you my FRN. I'm not going to do all that. There's my call sign. But you go here and it's by FRN. You type your FRN there. Okay? And then you hit search. And it'll show up whether you got a call sign or not. At that point, you are a licensed ham radio operator. So congratulations. You are official and you can start transmitting now that your name and call sign is on the ULS database. Okay, so you're licensed. What's the next step? Well, I would recommend that you go ahead and join a local club. A lot of the clubs will give you a complimentary membership if you test at their club. Okay, they'll give you a 1-year complimentary membership. The Olive Branch Amateur Radio Club, they provided me with a complimentary 1-year membership because I tested with them. That's the best way you're going to start learning. You're going to get around folks that know what they're doing, and they're going to want to help you, right? Because that's pretty much the way the ham radio community works, right? Everybody's out to help each other, and everybody grows together. So join a local club and start hanging out with other folks that are really into ham radio and they know a lot more than you do, right? And they'll start teaching you. Now you got to get a radio. What I did, and you can look at the previous video that I did, and it talks about the Jumpstart program with QRZ.com. That's only going to be available through March of this year, March 2023. So you may or may not be able to take advantage of that. So what I did, I went and did that, and I got they sent me a radio through Gigaparts. Had to go through. They sent me a code to order a radio through Gigaparts. They provided me software for programming it, the cable to program it. It was really good program. It was like $130 value, and ended up paying $24.95 for it. So good deal. This gets you started. This little radio here will hit the closest repeater that's like 6 miles away from me. I'm sitting in my living room, communicating on the closest repeater, participating in the net. So this is nothing to take for granted. This is a legitimate radio. All right. So you get your radio. with an antenna. Don't spend a lot of money at first because you don't know enough about what you really need. You need to hang out with folks, see what they have, and they can make recommendations for you. Feel free to say, get friends with them and say, hey, can you come out to my place and look at it and see what kind of radio you might recommend or antennas, because it all depends on where you live, right? I got a friend of mine, he's surrounded by woods. Well, that's very limiting. This little radio does not get past the woods, right? So he's got to get an antenna that is appropriate for a heavily wooded area. So he's got to get up high to get kind of above the trees, or a different kind of radio that won't be impaired by the trees, or antenna. So, and you only figure that out if you get other people's help. So that's important. Listen to the nets. Get a list of your local nets. What I did was really cool. The OBARC, Olive Branch Amateur Radio Club, they have a list of all the local nets. A net is a weekly or daily broadcast where they'll call on the frequency. There'll be a net coordinator, and he'll call the net to order, and they'll ask people to check in. And they'll either say, the suffix letters A through M, so Alpha through Mike, and then they'll go Lima through Zulu. And they'll ask you to check in, and then they'll call you and recognize you. You'll learn a lot about communicating properly on ham radio just by listening to the nets. Don't worry about checking in, just listen. Just listen and see what's going on. So what I did, the big nerd and geek in me, I made a laminated sheet that has all the local area nets, what time they meet, what frequency, if it's a repeater, what's the offset, what's the tone that's required, any kind of comments that, like this Marl, MARL net, it's on the fourth Tuesday of every month, okay? So some things are like that are special. And I even put the channel that my radio is programmed to, right? Because it makes it easier. I can find that channel pretty fast. If you're just tuning through frequencies, you don't have the offset and the tone programmed in. You got to have that programmed in order to communicate, especially with a repeater, where they won't hear you because you'll be trying to transmit on the same frequency that you're listening, and that's not how repeaters work. You transmit on a different frequency depending on the offset. Getting a little complicated there. Listen. Go to the meetings. Go to the local club meetings. Talk to people. Find out their experiences and stuff like that. Go to any field events that you might be able to go to. Go to a ham fest. Look up, they'll communicate that to you in the meetings if there's any events coming up. I went to a field day. It was pretty interesting. I really enjoyed that. I got a video coming up on that. So the more you talk to people, the more experience you'll have. The more you get on the radio, the more you communicate, the more you listen, the better off you'll be. So I hope this really helped you. Don't let it be overwhelming to you. The test isn't that bad, especially for technician class. Get that hamstudy.org program for your app, or for your app for your phone, or do it online. All you have to do is register. It's not a big deal. And then check it out. Just play with it. You definitely want to set up a QRZ.com account. Go in there, and you'll have to enter your call sign and email address and all that. And that's a whole different ballgame. But we're talking about getting your test, right? Passing your license. And I think we've done that. So just to reiterate, you need to get the study materials, apply for your FRN. That is so important. You got to have your FRN. Schedule and take the test. And then you need to just, get a radio, be a part of a club, start hanging around with folks that know what they're doing, and you'll learn from them. So I hope this helped you. I hope it's something interesting, and I hope it's something that you pursue. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. or send me an email at commanderbacon64@gmail.com. We'll talk to you next time. God bless.